So let's talk about the FIRS press release on the Nigeria-France tax MOU. And why does this press release even exist? It is because of public reaction. So this is not a proactive transparency, it was a reactive reassurance. But let's examine their core claims. First, FIRS insists that this MOU gives France no access to Nigerian taxpayer data, digital system, or operational infrastructure. But in the same breath, they press France's deep expertise in digital transformation, taxpayer services, and public finance system. Now let's pause again. You don't meaningfully advise a country on digital tax reform without seeing how that system works. You don't guide transformation without understanding workflows. How can you strengthen institutions without visibility into their process? So the real question is not, do they have direct access? The real question is, what level of insight does advisory actually involve? Next, FRA tells us clearly, this MOU does not include technical services. But then, they went ahead to list what it does include. Thank God. They say it includes workforce development, institutional strengthening, policy support, best practice guidelines. But the fact is, training tax officials is technical, shaping policy is technical, redesigning institution is technical. So what FIRS is doing is redefining technical to mean hands-on system control, while ignoring the influence that comes from shaping how decisions are made. So in simple terms, FIRS defines technical as pressing the buttons, not deciding which buttons exist and who put them there. So let's calm down and think. How can you meaningfully advise on digital tax system without knowing the system architecture? Without being able to see a system, how it's built, how the parts connect, and how they work together? You need to know the workflow mapping and work process and the data handling, even if it's anonymous. Now let's talk about the phrase they repeatedly use, entirely under Nigeria's control. Let's not forget that France is not a neutral observer in Nigeria's economy. French companies operate in Nigeria. French capital has investment here. And then we must remember the capital policy directly affects multinational profits, transfer pricing, and revenue flows. So when a foreign tax authority helps shape Nigeria's tax thinking, the question we must ask is, whose interests are unconsciously centered in those best practices? FIRS also goes ahead to assure Nigerians that local tech companies are not being displaced. They name companies like NIMS, Payback, and Flutterwebs, but notice something subtle. Nigerian companies are mentioned as implementers, not architects, as partners in execution, not in design. So again, we see the hierarchy. Local firms build, foreign institutions advise. Now here is where the latter becomes most revealing, in what it doesn't say. And now this is a call for transparency and accountability. They did not publish the MOU. They did not state its duration. They did not explain exit clauses. They did not mention parliamentary oversight. Who approved this? They did not describe independent audit mechanisms. They did not clarify us on conflict of interest safeguards. So where in this reform is taxpayer protection? Because you cannot expand state capacity without expanding citizens' safeguards. So if this agreement is harmless and beneficial as claimed, then publish it. Where is taxpayer rights protection? Where is independent appeal strengthening? Where is the transparency on enforcement threshold? Because when government responds to public concerns with press releases instead of documents, the issue is not misunderstanding. The issue is control of narrative. It's the truth at the time. Take care and have a nice day.